here, but I do have a knack for user experience. I do like it, and I like colors, and I like pixel pushing. It's fun. This is my shallow dive into the science behind colors and its connection to user experience. It is barely touching the top of it. It's a lot of things to learn. It's a massive field, and it includes a multitude of disciplines like physics, biology, chemistry, psychology, cultural anthropology, you name it. Everything I say, please do. How about human-computer interaction? Most of us, that's all. Because a lot of the things that we'll talk about do coincide in these classes. Let's start about the eye. There's no physical difference between what we call visible light and non-visible light. It's the same thing. It's just part of the same electromagnetic spectrum. So for us, because we have something we call visible light, it's what we call color vision with UV discrimination. That is what human beings have. I have 3 cones for human beings, and we are in the trichromacy group. We can see up to 10 million colors. Like terrestrial non-primate mammals are dichromats, and you have reptiles, amphibians, birds, insects, and sometimes even humans are tetrachromats. This means we have 4 cones in our eye. This is a lady, which is a tetrachromat, and she can see 100 million colors. I read an interview with her, and it was weird, simply weird. She's looking at grass as it is something you see in a pride parade. It is way different from us. It's primarily women that are tetrachromats because the pigment genes called opsis is encoded on the X chromosome. And it's believed that it's connected to color blindness because when you have different genes on both your X chromosomes, they can overlap or they can disable each other. So for women, they can have 4 different genes, giving them 4 different cones that are actually functional. It happens in men as well, but it's much less likely. This is a chart showing the peak sensitivity of our cones. I will use this talk primarily by trichromats, normal human beings, not the mutants. And we usually talk about red, green, and blue, RGB. But our peak sensitivities are not at blue. No, not at red. That's what I mean. You can see that the wavelength of the large cone is at yellow. And why do I show you this? It's because when we look at a color, for example, this is an hex color, this is what our eye will see. You have the wavelength of the color from the screen and couple it with the sensitivities, and you actually get what our eye sees and shows our brain what it is. And we also have rods, which are responsible for the scotopic vision. This is the photopic vision. Rods are very good when it goes dark. They're sensitive to a little lower than the leftmost cone, but it's not as good to give color vision. It is mostly there to give you a good view when in the dark. It is also seen that for some people, they may add to, say, little more than just trichromacy when the lighting goes low enough. They are almost 100 times as sensitive as the cones, and that's why they are the ones responsible for your night vision. So the last slide was about how we see colors. This is more about how we represent colors, because one screen from another is not the same. Every single pixel on your screen is different. In the 1830s, you have Charles Hayter. He did this chart on how he could combine colors from yellow, red, and blue into every single other color, or at least he tried to. In the 1920s, they did a color matching experiment using RGB, where they took 3 lamps on one side, 1 lamp on the other, and asked their subjects to make the same color, match the color with the 3 lamps. So if you had 1 lamp using orange, you could use the 3 other lamps, which were red, green, and blue, to match that color. So they reconstructed the test colors. Later, this was found to not be able to show certain colors. You can't make, I think it's teal, with red, green, and blue. You have to have red on the other side. So it's an experiment where they got close, but not all the way. Later, you had what's called the Commission on Illumination. They actually have a commission for that. They made the CIE XYZ color space, which is a combination of the RGB color space and what's called, I don't remember its name, it's not that important. But later, you have this one. It's a guy called Munsell. He went over to using hue, lightness, and chroma, which we know from HSL in CSS, for example. And this is the colors we can represent, which a human being can see using this system. And as you can see here, it's quite skewed. Not all colors are as much stepping on it as the others. Some colors actually are better when you need like 10 different categories of one color. If you take the lightest teal and then say in the middle here on the pink, you have way different stepping. And this system is also used for when we actually look at the screen and say it has this color gamut. A color gamut is basically only what the screen can show you of the space a human being can see. So if we can see 10 million colors, the screen might be able to show you, say, 5 million of them. But enough science. Let's look at some of the weird stuff that is happening when you probe our eyes with colors. Many of these are interlinked. To me, they're still blurry what they are. So I might have mixed them up, probably have mixed them up, and I hope you arrest me. Then we'll learn, all of us. You remember this one? Yes, I see one remember it. It's the dress. Because this image was passed around the internet for days on end. And it's something called color constancy. Our eyes and our visual system is trying to determine the color of an item based on the ambient lighting in the room. Take this dress, for example. The lighting around it makes my eyes see blue and dark brown at the moment. On my screen at home, I saw white and gold. And it is because of the colors around the edges of the dress. Your eyes are trying to fixate the color and trying to say, okay, the lighting here is like this, then this dress has to look like this. So your eyes are telling you something that is not true. Because if we actually check the hex color, it is a light blue and a light brown. And how is this important when you do UX? Color correction. An image on your site that uses a certain amount of lighting but haven't been color corrected might look tinted if it's perfectly white on the side. If you don't actually have perfectly white in the image, your eye won't be able to see it as perfectly white. If you have something else than white on the side, you might still do, because your eyes are still trying to say this is white. The same goes for black. If you don't color correct it for proper black, it will look tinted or gray next to actual black. You probably will never be able to reproduce something as extreme as this in your your graphic user interfaces, but it's good to know about. And how about this? How many have seen one of these images? I guess everyone. You look at the dot for 30 seconds, and after a while, you're shown a different picture. And if you keep looking at the dots, the picture will have colors, but it is black and white. And it is sort of the same. It is discussed whether or not it is chromatic adaptation, that it makes color constancy, or if they're two different things. And these kind of illusions usually use black and white pictures, along with a picture with the opponent colors of what you're meant to see. But you can also use this to filter an image. If you look at a teal background for a long time, and then you look at another image, it will look as if you have put a filter on top of it. Because your eyes are fatigued, or the cones in your eyes are fatigued, and will show your visual cortex a different image. It doesn't last, luckily. The US effect, quite small, but it's handy sometimes. Because if you have most of your site is one color, quite strong color, it will mix with everything else. If you have something constant on your screen for a long time, it will actually change your perception of the site itself. And another example of chromatic adaptation is when you see something and your eyes are telling it it is different from another. The line in the middle, I don't know if the projector is good enough to actually show it, but for me on my own screen at home, I see the line in the middle as two lines. Because the leftmost color, background color makes it look warmer than the right side. This is the same process in your eye. It tries to make sense of what it's seeing. This is more likely to happen in your UX. Exactly what I wanted. What are you experiencing when you see this?
Pain. It hurts.
Yes. Why does it hurt? This is something called chromostereopsis. It is the faulty perception of depth. You can have either positive or negative chromostereopsis. And it is something you really want to avoid. First and foremost, it hurts. It's really tolling on your eyes. And I'll move along so you don't have to. But what it does is one color will seem more in front of the other. So if it looked like the blue was in front, you have positive chromostereopsis. If it looked like the red was in front, you have negative. And it happens only for certain pairs. You have red-green, blue-red, red and middle gray. You have, you have some pairs that are really pushing this. And it makes your screen look like it's vibrating, and it is taxing on your eyes. This is the one example I could find where it's used a lot. You have a lot of financial systems where they use green and red closely together. And what you should do is first and foremost, avoid the combinations if you can. But make some room between them. So if you have one red background with text on it and one green background with text on it, slightly move them from another. Then you will reduce the effect of it. And another one, read the quote. Our eyes are trying to give meaning to what we see. I'm guessing someone has seen this. And our eyes are telling us that this is a checkboard with a cylinder on it. It's perfectly uniform. But the color of A and B is equal. But we don't see them as equal. This is because our eyes are seeing a shadow and telling ourselves that A and B must be different because of the checkboard. But it's the same.
Swear to God, B changes color.
But it is an evolutionary victory. It is important for us to actually see stuff that is happening in the world, not care about the color of it. So it gives more meaning for us to what it is than how it is. And another one. Let's open a browser.
Cool.
If we can.
Trycker command F5 för att spela.
This one is quite cool. Does it look like the feet are stepping? If we remove high contrast, they're not.
What?
This is also our eyes fooling ourselves. Because the border of the yellow square, you're not able to see it above the whites. So we can't see the motion of it. If you really focus, you can see it, but it's hard. But when you clearly see the contour of the box, there's no difficult to see the movement. Not very useful for everyday things. And let's see, Command F1. Put that one back in play. But when you do animations, it might be. Because certain motions you won't be able to see them. Because they are obscured by either the background or foreground or something next to it. And this is because the difference in luminescence is too small. Can anyone guess the next keyword? It's color harmony. We are taught that blue and orange is sweet. It's top-notch colors, perfect gradient. And you have this with blue and orange, you have this with red, orange, yellow, which we often combine to fire or trees during fall. You have black and yellow, we know it's danger from the nature, and everything is connected to how our ancestors, millions of years ago, survived danger. Because it is close to genetically coded in ourselves to be afraid of black and yellow. And that's why the song is about. And that brings us to the next part, culture. We are different. There's maybe not this different. Male and female alike do care about colors, but this is the stereotype. You have red. This is often linked to romance. Red roses. How the bloody hands. It's a negative feeling. It's a different connotation. Or the passion of a Ferrari. It's amazing. I want one. And then all WoW gamers know this. Don't stand in fire. Cultures have different meanings for different colors. Say, in Indian culture, red is the most powerful of all colors. It is linked to wealth, to fertility, when a woman gets married. In South Africa, red in their flag is connected to the violence when they broke out of their last war. In Thai tradition, it is the color for Sundays, because it's associated with Surya, the solar god. How about green? Are you an environmentalist? Or poisonous? Do you like green tea and the calm of it? Or are you the company greenhorn? As you might see, every color has different meanings in different contexts. And using this in your GUIs, you really have to think about, who am I targeting? Which country, which group of people? How am I supposed to use colors efficiently and not miss? Green is close to Christmas, but it's inexperienced. You have, in China, a green colored hat is taboo, because that means the wife is cheating on him. And across many South American cultures that are rich in forests, green are death. I thought it would be the opposite, but it was death. Well, how about the trusty blue shirt? Everybody knows that's a businessman. But that's a blue collar worker. We call the other guy a white collar worker, but he has a blue collar. Or if you're feeling down, feeling blue. Or feeling the blue. In Western cultures, blue is close to melancholy and authority, security, calming. It's a masculine color here. It's a feminine color in China. And Judaism, it's the shade of holiness. And in Hinduism, it's Krishna and love and joy. How about yellow? We know the bees, they might die. It's not good for us, but it is the color of danger. Or just the calm, soothing grass outside the grains. It's a crime scene, or we might have to censor it. And this is because in China, a yellow page is pornography. And some companies have failed miserably because of this. You had one company that failed because people saw it as sickness and danger. You had Samsonite fail because it was death and mourning, the color they used. You had United Airlines. The Chinese were shocked when they used white. And this can be business breaking. And there are lots and lots of examples on businesses that have gone wrong during this. It's a huge pitfall. You can't miss them. You can't avoid them all. You will have to actually go into them. And how do we use color in user experience? It's not usually the meaning of the color we're using. It's more a system of showing you different things as a visual help. It can help you group stuff together. It can make something pop out, a call to action. It can have an inherent meaning like danger or warning or success if you go red, yellow, and green. It can be used to improve readability, just like here. You know, it's this color, then it should be this. But it's extremely important when you do this, be consistent. If you give a color a meaning, be sure to only use it where it has that exact meaning. And this is why A/B testing is really important. HubSpot tested a button color, red or green. They, as you can see, they thought the green would outperform the red, but it was the opposite. The reason for this was that the rest of their site was green, so it wasn't an actual call to action. The green was just mingling with the rest. So no matter what the meaning of the color should be, or how it performs on a different site, you have to take it in context of your own. And you have accessibility. That should actually be in its own slide. Sure. I found a nice tool. Not that one, this one. It's a site that shows you the contrast of many different color pairings. And living up to the accessibility standards today, you have to take this into account. And because you now in CSS4 should be able to get, take the screen's representation of colors into effect, you should be able to get even better at showing the right colors to your customers. And then you can also calculate, like here, it's a difference in luminance. So if you use, for example, HSL as your color base instead of RGB, it's much easier to calculate if it's a good contrast or not. That's me, and some colors.